Okay, we need chocolate chips, lemon juice, cinnamon. Oh! Hey there, mathematicians! Mia and I were just out shopping for the rest of the ingredients we need to finish baking treats for our bake sale. Here's our list of ingredients. Hey, decimals! Yeah, these do look a little different from the ones we worked with last time, but I'm sure they connect to what we already know about decimals. Once we know what they mean, we can finish up grocery shopping. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to recognize patterns in place value names so that you can read, represent, and determine the value of decimals to the hundredths place. Have your guided notes ready? And let's get into it. All right, one of our recipes calls for this amount of chocolate chips. What are the place values we already know in this number? Well, we worked with numbers like 1 and 2/10 in our last lesson, so we know that the digit 2 is in the tenths place. But what about this place? Let's use a place value chart to help us out. We have learned about place values to the left of the decimal, like ones, tens, and hundreds. But this pattern also continues in the other direction. We have the ones place, then the tenths place after the decimal. What do you think comes after the tenths? Pause the video here to record your thinking in the guided notes. It's the hundredths place. Did you notice the pattern? Ones, tens, hundreds, ones, tenths, hundredths. Each decimal place value name is like the whole number place value name, but with a th at the end. And why is it called the hundredths place? Because it represents 1/100th of a whole. It's just like fractions. Just like how the tenths place represents 1 divided by 10, or 1/10 of a whole, the hundredths place represents 1 divided by 100, or 1/100th of a whole. Wow, 1/100th of a whole. That's really small. Check out this visual model to see how small it really is. We could divide our whole piece into 100 equal parts. One of these parts is equal to 1/100th. In words, it's written as 1 hyphen and then the word hundredth. We now know the name, place, and value of the hundredths, but it's also important to read and say them correctly. That'll make them easier to work with. So let's check out some of the other ingredients on our list to practice. Representing decimals to the hundredths in word form is a lot like representing decimals to the tenths in word form. Word form is just how we say the number or how we would write it out in words. For example, we know the value of this number is 6/10 because there's a sixth in the tenths place. So we represent the value in word form as 6/10. The same is true for decimals to the hundredths. The amount of lemon juice shows 0 ones, 0 tenths, and 6 hundredths, so we read this as 6 hundredths. But what about a decimal that has digits in both the tenths and hundredths places, like the chocolate chips? When working with decimals, we first check to see what the farthest digit to the right is and what place value it's in. Wherever the digits stop, that's the place value we write or say. In this number, the digit 5 is the farthest to the right, and we know it's in the hundredths place. There's a 2 in the tenths place, so we'll read this as 25 hundredths. It also has a 1 in the ones place, so altogether, this is 1 and 25 hundredths. It's just like reading the whole number 125, but with decimals, we say the whole numbers first, then include the place value name of the farthest digit to the right. 1 and 25 hundredths. Pause the video here to practice representing a few more decimals to the hundredths in word form in your guided notes. This first decimal is read as 75 hundredths. The next decimal has a digit other than 0 in the ones place, so we read the whole number, say and for the decimal point, then the decimal. That means this is 2 and 6 hundredths. Now that we understand how to read decimals to the hundredths, we can use that knowledge to represent their values with a visual model. Let's get back to figuring out the value of our first ingredient, the chocolate chips. Here's the visual model we'll use to represent 1 and 25 hundredths with. How many whole pieces do we need? 1 whole and then 25 hundredths. To show 25 hundredths, we color in 25 of the hundredth squares. Pause here to show 1 and 74 hundredths on the visual models in your guided notes. One and 74 hundredths has 1 whole and 74 parts of a whole. We show this value by shading in 1 whole and 74 hundredth squares. Nice work! These visual models remind me that each digit has a value, so we can also show decimals to the hundredths in expanded form. Let's check it out. To figure out the exact amount of chocolate chips we need in expanded form, we look at the values of the digits. The 1 has a value of 1, but how do we expand 25 hundredths? When we expand a number, we show each digit's value. And we know the value of each digit because of the place it's in. So what place is this 2 in? The tenths place. So it has a value of 2 tenths. We write plus 2 tenths. Pause here to finish representing the rest of the number in expanded form. We know there's a 5 in the hundredths place, but how do we show that as a decimal? We're just focusing on the hundredths place. So we can record a 0 in the ones place, a decimal point, a 0 in the tenths place, and a 5 in the hundredths place. That means 5 hundredths is the missing piece for the expanded form of 1 and 25 hundredths. Hey, since we're at the grocery store, where might I find other examples of numbers to the hundredths place? I see a bunch of them on price tags on the shelves, but when I read the price for a half gallon of milk, I say $2.42. The dollars are the whole number, and the cents are the decimal parts. We read money this way because cents represent part of a whole dollar, not decimal places. How would we read this number if we were using decimals in math? We'd say 2 and 42 hundredths. Keep a lookout for more examples of decimals in the world around you. Great work, shoppers. So, what have we learned today besides the fact that Mia and I have a lot of shopping left to do? Well, now you know that the names and values of each place in decimals follow a similar pattern to that of whole numbers. The digit in the hundredths place represents 1/100th of a whole, and we can use what we know about whole numbers to help us represent decimals with digits, values, words, and visual models. Thanks for all your help today. Now we can finish shopping for our bake sale ingredients, and we have a greater understanding of how we use decimals. Be sure to complete the practice questions and extension activities that go with this lesson to practice working with numbers to the hundredths. And remember, mathematicians, in math, as in life, every effort adds to your success. I'll see you next time.